Alright, so I think I've drifted off into a more bi-weekly upload schedule now. Let's just say I have to lock in for life stuff, but hey, I'll try to post whenever I can. Maybe. Anyways, I thought this would be a fun little idea. You saw the title. I think it's self-explanatory. So let's just get straight into it. So starting us off, I decided I'll draw Kea as a siren, technically a mermaid. Kea has started becoming a muse I like using and exploring in writing. When I tell you I have so many muses with potential that I never do anything with, I mean it. Kea is in fact one of those muses. He's had 3 videos here where he makes an appearance, so I think that says enough. I have a video where I drew a singular illustration of him and explained some of his lore if you guys want to check that out. I'll put it in the info card above so you guys can check it out later if you're curious. I won't go over his usual canon stuff too much here though. Instead, I'll probably explain some of my decisions I made. Some of you may or may not know this, but I have a little fantasy alternative universe in my head, and that's what these designs for this video is for. It's always fun to design stuff for that just because you can go more crazy. Now, we might be wondering what is my decision for making Kea a siren for this universe. It's because of his personality mostly. He's extremely smart and comes with a lot of charisma, like he's good at talking. I think that translates well into being a siren. Now in my little fantasy universe, there is a distinction between a merfolk and a siren. All sirens are merfolk, but not all merfolk are sirens, if you catch my drift. A siren is sort of a subspecies of a merfolk that is geared more as a hunter of sorts. Kind of a dangerous predator. They're more hostile than the average merfolk and will, in fact, lead you to your death. How you can tell a siren apart from a merfolk in my universe is that sirens typically will have darker colors for their tails. Merfolk typically have brighter, prettier colors. Sirens also have claws and sort of slit pupils. They also have fangs. Basically, you'll know they're a siren. However, some people still get the two mixed up because both sirens and normal merfolk have similar abilities and features. An average merfolk is more benign and won't harm you, but a siren will. So with that in mind, I decided to let Kea be a siren because he'd be pretty malicious in his intentions. He would use his voice to lead people to their deaths or something if he could, and it's just pure entertainment for him before any potential character development. He's not exactly the best person, I'll say that right now, but it's more fun when your muses are kind of terrible people in the beginning. So the lore I have in mind for Kea in this universe is that he's a siren who really hates humans and sees them as below him. He has no problem messing with humans. Bored with his own life under the sea, he had come to the surface to live among the humans as some detective. He benefits from having cases to keep him from being bored, but also free access to those humans to mess with. Surprisingly, he hasn't caused any deaths or anything. In the early days of his life back at sea, he caused a lot of deaths since sirens and merfolk are long-lived creatures in this universe. But in modern times, the sirens who have integrated with humans aren't going around recklessly slaughtering them. They have that in their blood, but they don't do it. Normal, average people. Kind of. Some of the sirens back at sea though, different story. Kea just has critical thinking skills to know if he was killing a bunch of things, he'd make his life harder but not in a fun way. He likes challenges, but when they get tedious, then it's annoying. Alright, so now that I went over the lore for Kea, I'll talk about some of the things that happened while I was drawing this. So for starters, obviously, I took way too long on the sketching and line art phase. So there were distractions like always, but then there was the fact that I initially had no direction for how his siren form would look. I knew I wanted the sirens to look a bit scarier though, and the features have to reflect that. That meant none of the usual flowing tails I like drawing on my merfolk. I settled for adding these spiky spine things on his tail and arms because I felt like they'd help him look a bit more intimidating. He's not meant to look approachable. He's supposed to be the opposite, actually. At least in his siren form. In his human form, he looks mostly normal aside from his ears. At work, I imagine he does something to his ears to make them appear normal since he doesn't have the luxury of long hair to hide them. Maybe he put something on or something. While a lot of humans don't have negative sentiments towards sirens nowadays, Kea still doesn't want his colleagues to know he's a siren. It'll put him under more scrutiny, so yeah. Another thing I struggled with is the top. When it comes to the women, I can always pop off. I can't say the same for the men. I actually struggle more with coming up with a top design for male merfolk or sirens because, like, what on earth do I do? A lot of them I feel like I can't just leave shirtless. Kea is one of those muses. He doesn't strike me as the type to just be completely shirtless, even in his siren form. I cooked up this strange crop top thing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did something. That's all that matters. At some point, I started having more fun with the design and added these coral attachments too, because they oddly fit Kea. Don't ask me why or how, they just do in my head. You may have seen me mess around with it a bit in the sketch, but I almost gave him a coral head accessory. I couldn't get it right though, so he's going without it. Oh yeah, there's also the background for this illustration because my genius ass thought it'd be fun to make 4 fully rendered illustrations for this video. Big mistake by the way, but we deal with it. When I tell you that drawing a wave splashing behind is actually painful and hard, I mean it. See, the thing with my style is that it's weird. I don't know how to properly translate water into my style without it looking off. I did my best, but yeah, we'll just ignore how strange it is. The background in general wasn't any better because I seriously struggled to figure out what to do initially. Clearly I got it figured out though, but that was a process. Here is the final illustration. I think for the first illustration of the video, it's actually pretty good. Honestly, it might just be my second best one here in terms of just in general, but yeah. The next muse I'm making a design for is Fengxin. He's been mentioned in like 3 videos as well. Both him and Kea are kind of my fixations in terms of muses. Like, you know that one character you like drawing and writing stuff for? Yeah, that's them. But Fengxin isn't a basement muse as I like to call them. He was only recently created versus with Kea, who was around for like 2 or 3 years, and I just chucked in the basement in favor of Jihoon and Youngsang. Like I said, now that those two have finished their character development in writing, it's time to move on to other muses. But back to Fengxin. I'll link the video where I talk more about his specific lore in the info card above too if you want something more in-depth. General baseline is that Fengxin is Youngsang's cousin and he's pretty much what would have happened if Youngsang never snapped and found his own way. I feel bad for Fengxin though just because the family I wrote him into sucks. But again, if you want more detail, I'd watch the video. For here, I'll just talk about stuff relating to the fantasy AU. I feel like in this AU, Fengxin wanted to live a normal life. So unlike his canon counterpart that is some senior idol who is just going through hell, Fengxin ends up being just an average college student studying in chemistry because that's something he finds interesting. Except he can't have a fully normal life because he's literally a being of death and has his responsibilities. Even if Fengxin is centuries old, due to being asleep for so long in some static state, he is kind of naive in some aspects. He's still pretty mature compared to what age he appears as, but he's definitely not hardened by the harshness of reality yet. Oh, and yeah, this AU takes place in modern times because I think that makes the most sense given the fashion I gave Jihoon, Hye, Youngsang, and Hyuk initially. When I first designed their fantasy designs, I didn't think too hard about the time period. If I had, then the fashion would have reflected it. Their outfit choices feel a little too modern to take place in ancient times, so it's modern times instead. But I think that presents some unique challenges for some of the supernatural beings in this AU. So yeah. I think in this AU, Fengxin's relationship with Meiron is interesting because in this, Meiron is a human, which is why I'm not drawing him in this video. Listen, some muses have to be ordinary humans. Meiron is still an idol and I had an idea on how he'd even meet Fengxin in this AU. So the idea is that a horrible stage accident happened during one of Meiron and his group's shows. One of his group members, who will actually make an appearance in this video, but I'll get into that on that section, tries to save him but fails to. Meiron is rushed to the hospital and is announced as dead. As usual, Fengxin appears to reap Meiron's soul, but he feels bad because Meiron is so young and not to mention he's worked so hard to be an idol despite his weakened immune system and sickness. So to die all of a sudden like this early in his career is heartbreaking. As Fengxin is about to take Meiron to the afterlife, Meiron begs and pleads him to stay, offering up anything in exchange for a second chance in life. Unfortunately, Fengxin has empathy, which makes his life harder when he needs to do his responsibilities. So he grants Meiron a second chance at life and revives him, but it comes at a pretty heavy cost where Fengxin himself is left weak and in a vulnerable state for a while. Remember, he doesn't fully know how to use his abilities yet. So that's how they meet. The second time they meet is when Mayron and his group perform at Function's university, and that's when Mayron sees Function in the crowd since Function is attending the performance with some quote-unquote friends. I put friends in quotes because they sort of claimed him as a friend, but he doesn't really see them all as friends. After that is when Mayron starts seeking Function out in secret to try and befriend him, because he's genuinely so grateful Function was generous. But he'll probably begin to see the consequences all of that had on Function during all of that. So yeah, that's the yap session of lore and plot I'd have in mind for those two. Clearly I like writing and thinking of stuff, so expect me to yap about it in videos, I guess. Anyways, now to finally talk about the art and design stuff. I spent way too long on the pose. Like, holy hell. I had to speed up the footage an ungodly amount so it didn't go on for too long. There was a bit of perspective, and then of course, the arms. Oh my god. Figuring out his scythe was probably the most painful part of the design process. I'm not good at designing weapons first of all. Second of all, I decided to do a chain scythe, which has a few extra steps compared to a normal one, so that was something else. When I was coming up with the design for this, let's just say I looked back at my design I made for Yongsang for inspiration. I sort of knew the vibes I wanted to go for here. Of course, main thing I kept in mind was Function's usual fashion aesthetic, so the spiky stuff was a must. I had this cool idea to put like a bone harness or something on him. Yongsang has an actual harness in his design though, for some reason. Yeah, that was a design choice I made back then, and I'm keeping that in anyways. Yeah, I thought the bones were more fitting for Function though. Then there's this coat he's wearing the wrong way because again, thought it fit him more than just some cloak. If anyone in the cast has to have a modern design, it's probably Function, who pretty much woke up in the 21st century, like he was asleep for that long. The color choices I kept pretty much monochromatic because I don't think he'd wear much color in his full green reform like we're seeing in this drawing right now. If we're wondering about his human form, he looks like an ordinary human. He doesn't even have the facial markings. Function at least got good enough in his abilities to shapeshift well, so that's something. But those are some of the things I wanted to mention with his design. Here is the final illustration for Function. Even though he barely has a background, I think this is probably my best one in this video. I mean, I'd hope so since I spent the longest time on it, but yeah. Right after the piece I spent the longest amount of time on comes the one I spent the shortest amount of time. For reference, I think I spent almost 6 hours on Function's piece, and most of it was trying to get the pose right. This one was done under 2 hours. So the next muse in this video is Johan, and he's a muse that has existed for a while. And by a while, I mean 4 years, but I didn't do much with him. Well, now he gets mentioned because he already has a role and plot in the fantasy AU, just no exact design. So in this AU, Johan is a fallen angel. Okay, before anyone calls me edgy or something, let me explain. So in this AU's lore, a fallen angel is an angel who has had their angelic essence removed and is exiled from heaven or whatever I decide to call it. Usually an angel has that happen because they commit a quote-unquote sin. It's quite oppressive up there, believe it or not. There are strict expectations for angels since they are meant to be perfect. So Johan isn't at all perfect, he's far from it. So he had his angelic essence removed and was exiled down to earth, where he lives as an ordinary human. Fallen angels are sort of tragic here because without their angelic essence, they will slowly die. Their bodies deteriorate, they slowly lose their abilities, and then they ultimately die. They can delay the inevitable by harvesting angelic essence and consuming it, but it's not a replacement for their original essence. If they want to be cured, they need to consume their original essence. Most fallen angels end up being desperate, hunting down angels who visit Earth and mercilessly killing them. Some become criminals and don't care what happens because they know they'll die anyways. As for Johan himself, he's just trying to live his life. But he definitely doesn't want to die. If anything, he wants to live, but he doesn't have it in him to hunt down any angels for their essence. Now, when a fallen angel is slowly dying, their hair turns white, which is why you'll see a lot of white chunks in Johan's design. The more white there is in their hair, the closer to death they are. Johan is pretty close to death though. He's at the point where it's hard for him to do a lot of things physically. He doesn't have much of his powers left, but he's still trying to live anyways. Now, if I drew Johan's actual current design in that AU, he probably wouldn't be in this video because he'd just look like an average human. So instead, I drew his appearance where he's wearing his angel clothes. A lot of long flowing robes. But there are some tears on his sleeves because he fought the archangels, sort of. You'll notice multiple scars on Johan's design. So the scar on his throat is the main one. To extract angelic essence, an archangel will need to cut an angel's throat and extract the essence there. Only archangels and higher can extract angelic essence. An ordinary angel can't do that. Which we might be wondering now, can an archangel extract another archangel's essence? Nope. So basically it has to be a higher angel. There's a hierarchy in this AU of normal angels at the bottom, archangels above them, dominions above the archangels, and then seraphims and cherubims above them. Then obviously there are the primordial beings such as the horsemen of the apocalypse, the creator or god in this world, etc. So any of the higher ranks can extract the essence of the lower ranks, with seraphims and cherubims being at the top if we're ignoring primordial beings. It's possible to ascend to be a higher ranked angel, and that's how a lot of these archangels and higher came to be. They ascend to a higher rank because of a primordial being's approval. But that's enough explanation about the workings of this AU. Which, if things seem a bit messy and there are plot holes, that's because I haven't fully thought of all of the details, as this is meant to be somewhat for fun. But I like adding a bit of world building so we can take the serious elements a bit more seriously. And in Johan's case, where he's slowly dying and everything because of what happened, yeah. Okay, but back to the design. I made his scars gold because he's a fallen angel. He's gotta be at least a bit special. So in my head, angels bleed gold. Even if he's a fallen angel, he is still bleeding gold. That's how the humans can tell he's a fallen angel and not a normal human. Oh, and I guess I'll mention a quick thing. You probably saw me sketch the drawing upside down for a hot second. I was going to originally make it upside down like he's floating like that, but then I realized physics exist, and I am not good at drawing hair when someone is upside down, so yeah. Anyways, that should be it for all of the things to yap about. Here is the final illustration. Even though it's pretty simple compared to the earlier two, I think it still turned out pretty decently. Oh, I forgot to mention this in my whole yap section, but fallen angels also have their wings cut off, so yeah. That's why Johan is wingless here. He's still majestic like this nonetheless, so yeah. So the final muse I'm drawing for this video is Ha-young. He's another new muse just like Function. Remember how I mentioned that there was a group member who tried to save Mayron in Function's little plot with this AU? Well, Ha-young is the group member. I decided in this AU, Ha-young is a phoenix. He dies and then he gets reborn as someone stronger, of course. So we might be wondering what on earth a powerful being like a phoenix is doing in some silly little idol group. Well, Ha-young has self-appointed himself as Mayron's guardian angel. I'm thinking that Mayron found Ha-young in his bird form once when he was a kid. It was raining, Mayron was outside when he shouldn't be and got lost. Then he stumbled upon Ha-young and tried to talk to him. Mayron's kid brain thought Ha-young could understand him, which he did. But any other person who saw Ha-young in his bird form would think he doesn't understand them. Anyways, Ha-young was the one who ended up leading Mayron back to his house. He watched over Mayron for a bit and realized that due to being in the rain for too long, Mayron had gotten sick, and it was a really bad sickness too. After that, Ha-young decided pretty much he would watch over Mayron to make sure he'd end up okay in the end. Years later, Ha-young finally appeared in human form to be a part of the same idol group Mayron is in after seeing how the other male is auditioning and all of that. Mostly so he could continue watching over Mayron but in a more comfortable way. Because he really was sneaking around as some bird for the past few years of Mayron's life. He's like a mother figure to Mayron, honestly. So let's just say when we have the incident where he couldn't save Mayron from the stage accident, he was truly devastated. Like, man, that's basically his son, guys. Now we might be curious about the canon universe. Ha-young is still Mayron's group member and he's still taking care of that silly guy. Just a few key differences, like how Ha-young's strict parents wouldn't let him pursue that dream of being an idol, so he couldn't audition Young at all. He opted for having an indie solo career, but that didn't take off, so he ended up joining a survival show when he was 18, but got cut off at the semifinals. Bottom line is, he's a lot less naive than Mayron is. Naturally, the protective instincts kicked in, especially because in the canon AU, the company is questionable, and in the fantasy AU, the company is still questionable. Holy hell. You might be asking if Mayron knows that Hayoung is the bird. The answer is no. Hayoung doesn't plan on telling Mayron that he was in fact that bird. Mayron was probably really sad when the bird stopped going around to see him though, unaware that the bird is literally in the same group as him. I imagine that once Hayoung finds out about Function, those protective instincts are going haywire. He's definitely protective of Mayron because again, that's basically his son, guys. Now I'll talk about the design choices a bit. Just like with Johan, I drew Hayoung in sort of this initial phoenix human form clothing. That was interesting to design though because there were a few directions I could go with it. I loosely based it off of how traditional clothing from Asia looks. I say loosely because it's not exact. I just took some elements like the flowing sleeves and sort of the silhouette, I guess. Now obviously, there are some phoenix features that Hayoung has. I imagine that he has to actually try really hard to hide them from Mayron. It'd be much easier if he could shapeshift them away, but that'd be so boring. I don't like making things easy on my muses ever. So I imagine that what Hayoung has done is bind his wings to his body and pluck the fiery feathers from his hair. You might have noticed he has sort of a phoenix feathery tail thing too. He probably either buries it in his clothes and if they're too long, straight up cuts them off. Depends on the outfit. He's going that far so Mayron never finds out he's the bird. But also, as an idol, it's best if the humans don't find out you're some supernatural being. Usually, Hayoung's entire top half of his torso as well as his entire back is like bandaged up. He lies and says that it's because of medical reasons, so nobody presses further. Did he forge records? He absolutely did. Gotta make it more convincing. It's probably very painful for him to parade around like this with long-ass idol schedules, but hey, he cares more about making sure Mayron can live a good life. I think my favorite part of this design has to be the fiery feathers I put on his head. I could have made the wings fiery too, but nah, it'd be a bit too much fire because I plan on putting a lot of fire in the background. We wouldn't be able to see the wings very well if I did that. But maybe he has the ability to turn them fiery. I think the outfit I designed for him was okay too. Maybe I could have done better, I don't know. But yeah, if I had drawn a full body, maybe. Now the composition of this piece was kind of pain because I legitimately wanted to do a bit of perspective. That's why things look slightly wonky. It was an attempt, but hey, I definitely need to get out of my comfort zone every now and then. Here is the final illustration. It's pretty simple, but I think it's still decent. So yeah, that's all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, really sorry for not posting anything last week. It's been a lot, so yeah. I'd appreciate a like and subscribe if you can. It really helps me out here. But anyways, maybe I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye!